Waxing Lyrical, baby.
Hello, Waxers, and welcome to Waxing Lyrical with Mainz and Dutch. I'm your host, Mainz. My colleague in a danger zone in Rainford, a man who loves a chocolate-covered pretzel. It's Mr. Neil Dutton. How are we, Neil?
There is no Easter Bunny.
If you haven't seen Mallrats, first, literally stop what you're doing right now. Pause this. Go and watch it. While you're there,
Really?
watch Clerks. Watch Clerks 2. Watch Chasing Amy. Watch Dogma. Possibly watch Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. But don't kill yourself and then come back.
Here's a question. Watch Chasing Amy.
Yeah.
Be captivated by the story you are watching, and then for the last 20 minutes just sit and ask yourself, what the just happened?
And don't forget that Jason Lee didn't have the internet. Is the other thing I would highlight when you see what he's packing when he goes on a trip. Anyway, we're not doing that on this show because that makes it explicit. This show this week is split into multiple parts. Plugged into the Mainz is Son's Mainz, as Mainz didn't have a voice yesterday. And Neil got the privilege of speaking to Charles Dagnall, who I probably thinks I'm ducking him because I haven't been with him the last 3 times he's been on the show. Or maybe me and Charles are actually the same person. Who knows? But
Really
yeah,
not.
we're not. No, absolutely not. I would never support Burnley. Neil will speak to Charles about all manner of things regarding the NFL. Then we will return and we will talk fantasy and how bad Neil did on Fantasy Darlings last week, and how terrible we are at predictions bound to go wrong, but hopefully be better this week, we say, like we do every other week. Awesome. Neil, anything before we dive across to speak to you and Charles? Past you speaking to Charles before we speak to future you momentarily.
Just the fact that Antonio Brown has accepted his punishment and is going to be suspended for 3 games for COVID-19 protocol violations, which I think makes this the first time Antonio Brown has admitted he's wrong since at least 1989.
So that means he must have lagged really well because Bruce Arians went to bat for him. So he must have lied to Bruce Arians as well, right?
Which I think we can assume is something that Bruce will laugh off and take as no big deal at all.
Eventually, after shouting at you for 15 minutes. I mean, this is a guy who throws Tom Brady under the bus on a regular basis, which is unbelievable. But I assume I'm just gonna ask the question now that everyone's thinking. I assume that we're suggesting now that Aaron Rodgers never lied because he never said that he'd had the vaccine. Is the suggestion here that Antonio Brown said he had the vaccine and followed vaccine-related protocols and hadn't had the vaccine, whereas Aaron Rodgers told the world that he'd had the vaccine, but the organisation knew he hadn't, and the NFL knew he hadn't, I guess.
I'll read what the statement is because this is gripping audio for everyone. So this is from the NFL official, their PR thing. The National Football League announced today discipline of 3 players for violating jointly developed and administered NFL-NFLPA COVID-19 protocols. Tampa Bay's Antonio Brown and Mike Edwards have each been suspended without pay for the next 3 games. Free agent John Franklin III, that's a lot of families having sex, if signed by a club, is also ineligible to play in the next 3 games. All 3 players have accepted the discipline and waived their right of appeal. The suspensions are effective immediately. The NFLPA represented the 3 players during a joint NFL-NFLPA review into the recent allegations that players misrepresented their vaccination status. That review supported these allegations and found the 3 players violated the protocols. So yeah, I think they said, no, we're done. We've had it.
And they had a form to say they did, and that form was faked, is what we're saying. Whereas Aaron Rodgers misled everybody publicly, but privately had said that he never said he'd taken the vaccine and never filled out a form. Okay, that's fine. I'm cool with that. Well, I'm not cool with it. I think they're all morons, but that's a different story. But you cheated and you got caught. Well, don't be throwing no stones at America right now, mate. Do you know what I mean? I mean, 10% of the people have got COVID in Germany and they're shutting the place down, and we're like, let's have Christmas parties. What a fucking joke this country is.
Make sure you open a window regularly. That's the best one I saw. It's winter.
Fucking love an open window. Love it. But don't wear a mask because, it invades human rights or something, I think. Yeah. I don't know. I haven't quite worked out why we don't wear them yet.
Don't wear a mask. Open a window. Wash your hands. Sing Happy Birthday. That has been...
Do you sing Happy Birthday? Do you sing Happy Birthday at the Christmas party with about 50 of your closest and not closest friends and family?
Only if it's Simesies, because obviously it's his birthday and it's Christmas on the same day.
Of course, him and Jesus. Awesome.
And Marcus Trescothick and Alistair Cook.
Well, what a list! What a list! I've only got Beyonce Knowles, so there you go.
I've got Ricky Ponting.
Okay.
And Reggie White.
Oh well, now we're talking. Now we are talking. Right.
And Jake Gyllenhaal.
Ooh, are you allowed to bring up Jake Gyllenhaal right now? He's non-compass. He's not allowed on the list at the moment, is he? Ladies, I hate Jake Gyllenhaal, and he's a bad man. That's all I'm saying I don't think women listen to the show, but if they
Very
did,
few, if any.
if they did, we support Taylor Swift, right? Because we don't want her to write a song about us.
I kind of do, but no, we probably don't.
Words cannot describe how much I would like you to go out with Taylor Swift so that you could do something stupid, which you would do. Not in a bad way. Neil's far from evil, by the way. You do something stupid, which meant she split up with you, because I would love to hear that song. I doubt it'd be 15 minutes. It wouldn't be 10 minutes.
Yeah.
That could be the title of the song. It wasn't 10 minutes.
For a number of reasons.
I mean, all week try to feel.
Yeah.
You know what we're going to do now, Neil? We're going to stop and we're going to get Charles on, and then we're going to come back. Otherwise, we may never get Charles on. So let's get on with Charles.
I'm joined once again, first time this season, by Charles Dagnall, frequent guest, friend of the pod. Daggers, welcome back. Thank you for chatting with us this glorious Wednesday evening.
Absolute pleasure to be back on. But why has it taken until week 12 or the end of week 12 to get me on? I'm hurt. A dagger has been pruned straight between the shoulder blades. But that's fine. It's nice to be here now. It's nice to be asked. But, just leave it a bit, because then I think you don't like me.
If it's any consolation, we haven't had any guests on this season, so you're the first one.
So I'm special. Oh, well, that's all right then. As long as I get to be special, that's marvellous.
So obviously, celebrating the fact you are here, and what a pleasant surprise it is for, me, yourself, the 4 people who download and listen. We thought that we'd discuss some of the pleasant surprises of this season that is now practically over for all intents and purposes. Just some things that, even, some of our teams are, they don't really have an identity. Some of them are still contending, but there's just other things in the wider league that goes around that you look back and think, even if it doesn't affect you personally, it's just like, it's good to see, just some things that...
Absolutely. And you know what I like, because there are so many storylines and we're flooded, aren't we? We've got this sort of daily diatribe of little stories peeping out here and there, and the sort of roller coaster nature of the season. Sometimes, like I say, it can feel a little overwhelming with, some inside the NFL reporter saying that someone's quad is touch and go for, the third string guard for Cincinnati is touch and go for the way. I'm just like, oh God, why are you tweeting this? But do you know what? There are some fabulous stories that have emanated from this season. We had a conversation on text message about it, isn't it? Its unpredictability is in itself predictable. There's been, from one week to the next, you can never really write a script that can be adhered to. So that's why we love this game, though. This is why we love it. The sort of parity of the NFL, which is, they've tried to maintain over the course of a long period of time. It sort of is for that very reason, is that on any given Sunday, cliche alert, sound a klaxon, I'll put one over on when I've that. But that is how this season has felt. And that's why it's so open, and that's why it's so exciting. There's just so many who still may be languishing at the bottom of their division, who still have a potential for wild card spot.
Yeah. I mean, one thing that I found pleasantly surprising, as someone who is, himself old and getting older rapidly, it's good when you see people who you think maybe the game has forgotten or passed by to all of a sudden take this opportunity like late in their career. I mean, I thought at the time, going back 2013, that Cordarrelle Patterson should not have been a first-round pick. But then 10 years later, it's like Arthur Smith has finally said, look, he could have been if this is how he'd been used.
Absolutely. And I love the way the Falcons are using him as well. Whether he sets up in the backfield, whether he's returning kicks or punts, whether he's actually playing as a wideout, they are finding a way. And I don't know about you, but I think Cordarrelle Patterson has actually got a bit bigger as well. Stronger, broader in the shoulder. He looks, he's a machine at the moment. And he is arguably Atlanta's best weapon. Obviously, Pitts at tight end, and no one else has really sort of come to the fore. But Patterson, short yardage situations, when it's got the goal line, you've got to cover him, whether he be in the backfield or split out wide. He's a great story because, as you say, first round draft picks, they have this tag, they have this millstone around their necks, and when you don't live up to it, Tavon Austin, someone like that, is a great example of that. He's a bit like Dante Hall, the sort of human joystick. He's got these amazing moves. He can do. Does that translate into the NFL? Was Tavon Austin used correctly? Arguably, you could sort of say, well, Cordarrelle Patterson is a similar kind of, obviously different in stature and size, but what coming out of college and the abilities that he had, and how could they be used to the most success? It's taken him 10 years. It's taken him to get to Atlanta to find it. And I think that's a wonderful story, a real pleasant surprise.
I mean, apparently I saw a report that he's now also being listed as a backup safety in the depth chart as well. It's like, mate, let someone else play. It's a great story, but come on. Let other people have their moments.
It's almost like he's sort of on the sideline going, lads, I don't want to have to do it all myself. Some of you can help, but at the moment it's kind of on me. Just give us a little bit of assistance. That's all I'm asking for, lads. And I just think that's a great story. I'll tell you who's pleasantly surprised me. And it is a shame that the aforementioned Mainz is not on the show tonight, because I'm going to talk about his football team. I'm going to talk about his quarterback. And we saw a little glimpse of Taylor Heineke in the playoffs last year, whether he could translate. Do you know what, Dutz? I think Washington have got a QB. I really do. There's obviously so much hype built around those coming out in the first round, and especially last year's 5, I think it was, coming out in the first round. I think that's massively unfair. That's for another time. I think that rookies are judged way, way too soon, where, time was you stand and hold a clipboard for 2 years. Mahomes did it for 1. Alex Smith did it for Aaron Rodgers did it for 2 or 3, but behind Brett Favre. I think you learn the game and the pace of the game when you're actually watching from the sidelines and seeing how others did it. That being said, Taylor Heineke coming in, and he's been in the league a couple of years now, but I just think he's got something. I really do. I loved Washington at the weekend. Their balance between rush and pass, I think, was great. I think Heineke's composed, much more composed now. The game's slowing down for him. I think his reads are good. He goes through his progressions nicely. He's got that little bit of stardust. He's got that bit of the rabid dog about him. And I just think if Washington, and as much as I don't know about college football, I've heard that the draft class for the QB for quarterbacks coming out this year is not that deep. So, whether you go with Fitzmagic next year, I can't see them doing, given the way that Heineke has played. I think you actually put your chips in with this kid. I really do. And I think that's something that's really pleasantly surprised me. I thought that some of their drives in the recent games, and I will say it, against Tampa Bay, I thought they were fantastic. But I just think Washington have been crying out for a quarterback for a good while now. They've got other pieces. I think they're a playoff caliber roster. fabulous defense, absolutely great. I think they've got a really great offensive line. They've got a good running game, and they've got playmakers on the outside. They're missing a quarterback, and I think that this kid could do it. I think given another season, he might take Washington to the playoffs next year. Thoughts?
It's one of those. I always find that there's certain players and positions when they're not first rounders, they didn't come from Clemson or Alabama or anywhere like that. So they've had to. They've basically spent their entire college career being looked down at. And then they get taken in the 6th, 7th round, or they go undrafted. And again, they think the league is still looking down at them.
Yeah.
And so it drives them that they know every rep, every snap, every pass attempt, this could be my last because no one really gives me a chance.
Do you know what? It's an interesting point you're raising. I can actually correlate to this a little bit. So when I was playing cricket, and I didn't get taken on by Lancashire, who was my club right throughout the ages, throughout my early age groups, 13s, 15s, 16s, 19s. I was player of the year at under 19 level for Lancashire, expecting to get a contract. Didn't get one. Devastated. Then went, and I hold a record still for going round other counties and trialling for them, playing games in the second team for them. My record of the 18 counties, I trialled and played games for 13.
Blimey.
13 said I wasn't good enough. The other 30 of the other 5 that I didn't play for, I played against. They told me I wasn't good enough for 3 or 4 years until Warwickshire took a punt on me, and that was all I needed to kind of get in and then to kick on. And I think it's a similar sort of, if you get told you're not good enough, but you believe it. Some people are, you get told you're not good enough, and maybe they're not good enough, and they sort of go, well, you know what, I'll leave it then, kind of thing. And this guy, I think, has got something different. And I just like the way he moves the ball with the offensive command he has. He's not panicky. He doesn't rush. He doesn't throw the ball, to his first read. I love his. Now he's starting to pick up a little bit of eye movement as well. He's reading one way and throwing the other, and that, wrong footing defenses. And I just think that's fantastic. I think I'm actually really excited to see if he can really kick on, because I think there's the seed of actually a 10-year starter there. I
think it's Nick Saban has this trick when he's recruiting. It's similar to yourself. What you're saying is he goes to these kids, the high prospects, and says to them, I don't need you. Because from that, he gets 2 responses. I suppose you're right. Or I'll show you. He says, the first one, I don't need. The second one, I'll take them all day.
Absolutely. By the way, we've been massively positive so far about certain aspects. And I feel a little bit like we need to get the yin to our yang, or the yang to our yin, whichever, and start slagging people off before it's too late.
Sounds good. The big thing that I'm disappointed by, and it's pleasantly unsurprised or unpleasantly surprised, is that when I first started watching the NFL, which was, I can always remember the date, it was the 19th of November 2000, and the first game I ever watched was the Jets against the Dolphins. Why I came back, I don't know. But the trail end of that was when we still had, it was the age of the running back still. Mm-hmm. The running backs were the poster boys of the NFL. And now you look, that I know that they're replaceable and, that they come and go. But if you look this season from a fancy lens, is, how most people would associate the best running backs, and you see how injured they all are. Yeah. And you realise this is when it puts a human face on. These guys won't play 10 years, whereas you can be a bog standard quarterback like Andy Dalton and play 15, but someone like, Christian McCaffrey or Alvin Kamara or Derrick Henry, you've really got to appreciate them for such a short space of time because of how punishing a position it is.
I look at it in such a way that they are almost disposable commodities because there are so many of them. There's so many good ones as well. Now, okay, Derrick Henry and Jonathan Taylor and like I say, Alvin Kamara, those who've got a little bit of X factor about them, of course. But actually, if you're coming into today's NFL, let's be right. If you're a rookie running back, and let's say you're taken in the 2nd or 3rd round, which a lot of running backs are, it's very rare to see now that an RB's taken in the first round because of the nature of the position and because they've seen success in the later rounds with other running backs. You're going to get in on a rookie contract probably for 4 years. You're going to sign potentially one big deal, and that's it. That's all you're going to actually do. You know, Zeke got it in quite early because of his first couple of years down at Dallas. And you know, there'll be other examples of that. But it is just one sign that, you know, if you've been successful for 3 or 4 years and the team wants to keep hold of you and you're that much of a difference maker, then you'll have one big contract. But because by the end of that next contract, you're kind of done. You really are. And the next batch are coming through, or the next college running backs coming through. And so I agree with you. Injury is one thing. It's a bruising position. You're not necessarily going to get massively well paid over a course of a 10-year career. Not like a quarterback or a top level tight end even, or something like that. You know, they have longevity to those kinds of players, or even on the lines, or you would argue in any other position. But you're only going to get one potentially big contract. And it can't be a huge contract, because what owners will turn around and say, or general manager will turn around and say, you can't sort of fight for every dollar or to be overpaid, because we'll just get another. We'll get another in. And I agree with you. It is disappointing to see the amount of injuries, especially when we know what, you know, Dalvin Cook's out. I mean, watching that guy run is just epic. It really is. You know, him with his shoulder problem. McCaffrey's out for the season again. I don't know how long Kamara's out for. But they add so much to their offenses, such different dimensions. And it's, like I say, I think injury in the NFL is the thing that guts me the most, because we want to see the best players. We want to see them week in, week out. And I know that happens, but it's happening all too frequently. You know, Tampa Bay taking on Washington the other day. People I want to see, I wanted to see Terry McLaurin play. I wanted to see Chase Young play, and he's not there. He's battered and injured, and he's out for the season. But especially in the running back position, I'm with you. I think it's you know, if you're the running back size, then, you know, you've got to be looking at other positions if you want longevity. And if you're in college, I don't think you're necessarily going to earn the dollars that you potentially would have done at one time. Interestingly, my first ever game of being actually sucked in to the NFL was a Jets-Dolphins game. It was the 51-45 with Ken O'Brien and Dan Marino at quarterback, and Wesley Walker was the Jets wide receiver who won it for the Jets. I think that was back in '86 or something like that. That's showing my age. There you go. So you say you feel old. How about me?
It is weird though, because
walk 3 yards in my shoes and not get injured.
It is weird though, because I say the 19th of November, it's my better half's birthday. I hadn't met her then, so I would say that, you know, it's the most significant date in my life for two reasons, and the NFL obviously the most important one because it was here first.
I want to talk about disappointing. I want to talk about a disappointing team and a disappointing franchise. And they were on Monday Night Football. I think it was Monday Night Football or Sunday Night Football, one of the two, at Seattle. Now, I don't understand how you can take a side with the core of players that they had at one time under Pete Carroll and John Schneider, and how you have got a quarterback who, when they won the Super Bowl, what was he, second year, first year?
Second year.
How you can waste 8 years of his prime playing, and on a franchise with basically no protection, no offensive line. I just think they have wasted arguably one of the best talents in the NFL. And just the way that the franchise is seemingly disintegrating. Brilliant fan base, fabulous stadium, you know, great atmosphere, should be winning pretty much 7/8 of your games at home. And I just feel gutted, and like the energy has been drained out of me watching. I don't particularly like them, I don't support them, but I just think here's a franchise that should really, okay, they're in a tough division, I'll give them that, but they're just, at the moment, there is just no fight. There's no reason to actually go and watch them.
It is weird that teams. Well, I've been watching the NFL, as I say. Excuse me. Obviously, it's very difficult to get to a Super Bowl, but you find the number of teams that get there and don't win it, and it starts a snowball that then takes this team out of relevancy for years. I mean, you go back to the Rams when they lost to the Patriots. That was it for the Rams. They were done for 15 years. The Raiders lost to the Buccaneers. You probably remember it. And the Raiders did nothing for 20 years. Everyone goes on about the Falcons, 28-3 up. They lose it. And they've been wandering in the dark ever since. Since Russell Wilson threw that pick to Malcolm Butler, the Seahawks have never looked like going back to a Super Bowl.
No.
It's always been one thing. Oh, we want to run the ball. We'll play defense. And if we get in trouble, Russ can pull a miracle out the hat.
Absolutely. And
it's like that. You can't. I mean, the great Andrew Brandt always says, "Hope is not a plan."
It's right. And the amount of deep balls I see him throwing. I mean, granted, he's got two wideouts who I think are in the elite bracket in Lockett and DK Metcalf, and he has those weapons. I don't think he's got a great tight end. I don't think he's the running game's okay, but the offensive line, they've never addressed that offensive line. And if he's not Lamar, he's not Patrick, he's not. Yes, he's an electric quarterback, but he's not that. He's 10 years on. And he is actually, he's sort of, it's very difficult to sort of bracket him in a kind of, he's got accuracy. He's got great touch. He's a great leader. He's very calm under pressure. And all of these attributes should make for a challenging franchise every single season. And I just get so, disappointed and just sad when a franchise player like that is not able to, whether he's there next year or not, who knows, but when you can't fulfill what talent is there, it is frustrating. I
compared Seattle over the last few years to they just wanted to get to the playoffs, and that was a success. And that's Arsenal. That's an Arsenal mindset. It's we don't want to win it. We don't want to go all out, put everything in, and try and win this. We just want to get there. Yeah. And I say, well, that's great for the fans. You might get a home game now and then, but why not? Why not do what the Rams? I mean, it's not doesn't seem like it's working at the moment.
But you read that, but do you know what? You're right. I like what the Rams have done. Saying, you know what? Yeah, our future we may have given away. We may only have one draft pick in the next 10 years, and it's a sixth rounder in 2024. That said, we're going to win, and we're going to win now. We believe we can win now. We're going to go and get Von Miller. And we're going to bring in Odell Beckham Jr., okay, and then Robert Woods goes down. But, we're going to make these plans. We back our guys to bring it home this year. Now, okay, things have slightly gone off the ball. There's still a lot of time left. And they're still a very dangerous outfit. And Sean McVay is obviously a very talented and bright and out-of-the-box thinking head coach. But I like that. So saying, right, we're going to go all in. And if it works, great. And if it doesn't work, well, we've given it a really good shot. And I'm with you. Just sort of going all in and putting all the chips in the middle of the table, saying we're going to win a Super Bowl. Now, one hopes that I don't like to see any team in the doldrums for a while, but I like the mindset.
I mean, and the great Rob Stanton, BBC Sheffield, I think it is. Yes, he's a friend of the pod as well. He's always been a very calm Seahawks fan, but you read some of the things he's written after games this season, and you can tell if he's a moderate Seahawks fan, you can see how angry he is in what he's writing. Yeah. It's like if I was a hardcore rabid fan, I'd probably be tearing down that, wonderfully loud stadium they've got. And unfortunately, it's just this thing with the NFL and life in general, really. Sometimes things go on too long.
Yeah. Does that segue nicely into something else?
It may well do.
Just by the way, Rob Staten, if you are listening, I'm more special than you because being a friend of the podcast, I'm the first guest that they've had this year. So, Rob, sorry about that.
I'm sure he'll forgive us and get over it.
Go on, segue into your disappointment. Come on.
Well, me and Mainz did touch on this a few weeks ago, chatting on it, but I was told the Patriots were dead. I was assured that they've had their 20 years, their dominance that no NFL team has ever known, and that's great. Now their fans are going to eat going to eat crow for a good part of the next 10, 15 years until they go again. No, it's not fair that they just pick up a rookie and this team that going back to 2001 when it wasn't a team of superstars, it was just a bloody good team. And they've done it again. And it's like, Bill, come on. Let someone else have a go.
Your disappointment in this is actually, and I hate to admit this, is actually a real positive for me. Not your disappointment, the Patriots. I'm actually quite pleased about them. In that, it's not easy when you've had a marriage like Brady and Belichick for 20 odd years and have had the success that you've had. When the divorce happens, then it's interesting and it's great. It's great column inches for people to spin. But Tom Brady's gone to a franchise that is pretty much set up to win a title. He's just the missing piece. They've got everything pretty much sorted. Great defense, except poor secondary, but in the main, you add him to any team, they're going to make them better. But he had a lot of good working pieces around him. I was able to get that run going and win the Super Bowl. Meanwhile, back in New England, Bill Belichick, the questions are asked, and hugely unfairly. My God, this guy's won how many Super Bowls? 6, 7 Super Bowls. This is arguably, statistically, the greatest head coach that has ever been in the NFL. And people are saying, well, he's, how good a coach is he really? Because he doesn't win with that top. Well, I don't want that to be his legacy, actually. As much as people don't like him, as much as he's abrasive, and much as though he gives little away in the media, this guy is the absolute don. And I don't want his legacy, oddly, to be tarnished by a whimper at the end of his career that he couldn't find the right guy. What they do have is the system, the New England system, the famed system. Josh McDaniels has worked brilliantly, and Mac Jones, I think, has executed it wonderfully well. Their free agent signings, albeit taking a little bit of a while to settle in, have now settled in. I think the absolute key has been Matt Judon, who has just been devastating with his red shirt underneath. That can go for me. But that's just horrid. It's just like he's got just an old pajama top on underneath his thing. And it's his lucky pajama top. And he wears it because he had a good game once. And it's just horrific. But those free agents have settled in nicely. The system is working. Confident quarterback, rookie quarterback, who has no pressure because he was the 5th taken, the last one taken in that first round. And he has the skills that they've built the offense around. And I am actually pretty pleased the way that they've got. I will be in the minority, I have no doubt. But I think I don't like to see, if he can have success. I'm not saying he wins the Super Bowl, but if he can have success with another quarterback outside of Brady, that just rubber stamps, I think, his greatness.
Stat that I saw today is that Belichick has the same number, or it might be one more win as the head coach of the Patriots than all the other Patriots head coaches in their history combined.
Tells a story, doesn't it?
Yeah,
quite good.
There's a wonderful book about it's called From Darkness to Dynasty. It's by Jerry Thornton. It's about the first 40 years of the Patriots. It's very, very funny. Right. Because it goes to show that the Patriots, I say, that most people know now, this well-drilled, efficient machine, and it was a clown show for a large part. I mean, they nearly drafted a dead guy back in the 60s. They literally were saying, we found this fella. There's one slight problem with him, coach, and he's dead. And then they drafted another one. They rang him up and they went, yeah, he's in hospital. He just had surgery.
Oh my God! It just.
My favourite one, actually, though, other than dead people, is their very first draft pick played out his contract working in their ticket office.
You're kidding me.
That's how bad he was.
God. What's the book called again?
It's called From Darkness to Dynasty by Jerry Thornton.
I might just try and seek that out. That looks like a good read. Good read.
Is there anything else that pleasantly surprised you, or do you want to end on another down note? Or
Do you know what? We texted each other the other day, and we were talking about the unpredictable nature of the week on weeks in the NFL. What we're coming up to week 13, and what's disappointed me a little bit, and I think it will have disappointed a lot of people, is the way that sort of some sides are actually a bit scared, a bit frightened of the heights that they're reaching, and they don't know what to do when they get there. And because of that, and we'll explain it, both of us, I'm sure, in a sec, but because of that, everything is different and it will remain the same. I still feel, and I text this to you, I said, I still feel it's going to be a Kansas City Buccaneers Super Bowl. Reason is that, yeah, there's been blips in both of their seasons, and people were talking about, Kansas City are rolling now. They're rolling. They found it again. They're just, they'll get through to the playoffs, whatever happens. And I think they'll be the most comfortable team there. Buffalo, at the moment, so much was expected of them after 13-3. They're the ones that are the preseason favourites. They start off really well. Oh, this is the Buffalo. And now everybody has been talking about them and what Josh Allen can do. They're just fumbling. Not the ball. They're just fumbling the situation. It's almost like we're this good, and they are that good. Of course they're that good. But they don't know what to do when they get there. And that's a worrying trait for me. Will they be a playoff team? Of course they will. They really will. I would actually be a little concerned about them in the playoffs. You look at Dallas. Dak's back. Fantastic. And then, they're going to beat some they're going to beat some regular teams. Anyone that comes up with the semi-stiff opposition, no. They're not, that Denver game again, when they were at home the other day, what were they, 31-0 down or something like that? And I was just going, what? This is not a playoff team, or this is not a successful playoff team. I wonder about when Kyler Murray comes back for the Cardinals. They are not an experienced playoff team, but they have had and they've continued their run with Colt McCoy coming back into to back up Kyler. The 9-2. That's a really successful interim stint without your main guys, with DeAndre and Kyler Murray. So it's just the fact that teams get to a certain stage and go, oh, what do we do? What do we do? We don't know what to do. And that's been a little bit of a disappointment. I want my great teams, or my potentially great teams, to go out there and boss people, and to go out and dominate and show people why. Weirdly, New England are doing that at this moment in time. They're bossing people, and I love that. I really, really love that. About Baltimore have had one or two little, hiccups as well. Are they? And it's these little moments, I think. I'll finish my point in a second. That's just hold with me for another 20 minutes. But it's these little hiccups which make you just look a little bit of a slanted way at them in January.
I think it's what you said about the Cardinals. Obviously, they've had like 3 games without Kyler Murray. If they'd gone 0-3, then the whole team starts panicking.
Yeah.
That we need to get Kyler back. Kyler needs to do this. Whereas now it's like, we're okay.
Yeah.
We got by without you. Now take us to the next level.
Yeah,
Whereas,
totally.
as you say, someone like Buffalo, I remember, was it a golf book I read it in? It's not the fear of failure that teams have. It's the fear of success.
Yeah.
They don't know how to win. And then when it's, okay, go on then, take it. It's yours. It's no, I don't know how. And it's just, and as I say, the Patriots are the only team in the NFL at the moment who are taking what's in front of them, kicking the crap out of it, and going on.
This is when I was on your very podcast, and I said to the 3 or 4 listeners who downloaded it, I said, when Tom Brady came to Tampa, it wasn't about his ability in the pocket. It wasn't about his accuracy, and it was the mentality within the locker room. That's what needed changing. The belief and the know-how to win. Very few people have got it, because there's been only one winner over the last 20 years. Belichick knows how to win, and his coaching staff. Tom Brady knows how to win. And this fear of success is a very real thing. it's almost, you've got, it's nothing about your ability. It's all about the 3 inches at the top of your head. And with the demons that can sometimes creep in, am I good enough? Am I good enough? Oh, I've dropped a ball. What happens if I drop the next one? As opposed to, right, I'll catch the next one, or whatever it may be. And you're dead right. I think that a lot of these teams, when it comes to January, and this is my point realised, is that when it comes to January, I can't see how Kansas City are not going to turn over teams. And I can't see how, I see it a little bit in Green Bay. I do. Green Bay having a brilliant season. They're 9-3, but I still back Brady over that Green Bay side. I do. Do you know why? Because they keep having great regular season records and they keep not making it to the big dance. And that in itself is a fear of getting there. Well, oh, we can't not do it again. Well, that's a mentality that feeds and breeds throughout a team and throughout personalities within that team. And so as much as every week seems to be a little bit of a turn up for the Bucs, and you look at the amount of sides, just looking at it now, the amount of sides now, 5-6. Amount of sides. Washington 5-6, Philly 5-7. Sorry, Minnesota 5-6, Atlanta 5-6, New Orleans 5-6, San Francisco 6-5. In and around that 5-6. Who's going to come from that bunch, and who has got the mentality to actually take it on? I think there's a lot of good sides who are in around that area, who can actually kick on and beat those sides we're talking about in their own backyard. Indianapolis, I think, are a good side. I'm pleased with Tampa Bay's result last week because I thought they'd turn us over. I really did. Not actually through Jonathan Taylor. Tampa stops the run. That's it. Yeah. You can't run on them. But I actually think that they're a well-coached team. Great offensive line, very, very good defense. And I actually backed them in their own building, which is why I'm pleased. But I think you look at Minnesota, there's a playoff team. Minnesota over Dallas. Yeah, I'll take the Vikings, thanks. And I think and it's those teams that will squeeze into the playoffs that I think will cause a lot of problems for sides who fear that success.
Mm. It's one thing I always talk about. Going back. It's the mental scars of the past. That's why we go back. We change sport. That 2005 Ashes team. None of that England team. They hadn't played. They hadn't lost 4-1 at home, and they hadn't gone through this.
Well, that's what Michael says. That's what Michael said this. And Vardy says he said he didn't want players with baggage, Thorpe and Butcher and Ramprakash or whoever it may have been. He wanted people who had never actually tasted defeat at the hands of the Australians. And he might have had one or two, obviously himself included, in previous ones. But he wanted those players without any of that baggage to come in at fresh, fearless players. And you're dead right.
Right. Well, I think we've been pleasant and surprised.
I think we've been quite pleasant. I think we've arguably been quite positive.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go and have a bath in Dettol or something now, just to get out the system.
Yeah.
But anyway, it took till week 12, but Dag, it's always a pleasure. Thank you for stopping in.
Having me, and I always enjoy coming on chatting with you, mate. And hopefully it's not too bad. Maybe sometime in the playoffs we can have a natter. But yeah, great to speak to you. Great to be on the pod as well.
And maybe Mainz will be on next time.
Yeah. He's avoiding me, I'm telling you. He's avoiding me. Why would he avoid me when Washington just beat us? Anyway, get better soon, Mainz. Hope you find your voice.
That was the brilliant Charles Dagnall there, being pleasantly surprised by the New England Patriots being good. Ooh, Charles, hot take alert. You'll be on ESPN in no time.
You can take shots at Daggers because we all know you're not going to be here to answer him next time he's on.
Exactly. So there we go. That's enough plugged into the Mainz, Sons Mainz. Let's get on with the fancy portion of the show and look at how we did last week.
Hello, darling.
Fancy darling, Neil. You were 15 and 19 prior to last week. Last week you gave us Jimmy Garoppolo. I highlighted he was shit. You said you didn't care. He was quarterback 22 last week, 11 0.67 points, 230 yards, 1 touchdown and 1 interception. That's a loss. You picked Austin Hooper. Did he play? Because he got no points.
See, the process was to play a Browns tight end against the Ravens. I just picked the wrong one.
Yeah.
I should have gone with David Njoku, but I did not.
For those who are unaware, 0 points means a loss. Neil also picked the Eagles' defense, which again had a sound process. And if the Eagles' defense were playing against the Eagles' offense, it probably would have worked. However, the Giants' offense was slightly better than the Eagles' offense, so the Eagles' defense was only defense 16 and got 5 points, and that's a loss. That's Neil now 15 and 22. So we need some comeback, Neil. So please tell me who your first pick is this week.
Do you know there were still some people on Twitter complaining about the Eagles' defense last week? I'm sorry, it's 2021, and you've held a team to 13 points. I don't care. That's not on the defense if you lose that game. It's just not.
No. I now live in a world where if your team concedes less than 24 points, that it's an offensive problem. That's just where I am now. Like, I expect every team, however awful they are, to get a minimum of 24 points.
Yeah. So anyway, the first candle in the wind I hope to see some joy from this week, we've mentioned him before, or I have anyway. It's Tua. Now, I don't know whether it's the fact that maybe people have just written the Dolphins off now and just decided no, they're just going to coast through, but Tua is actually playing very well. Like since week 6, he's completed 73% of his passes. He's averaging 247 passing yards per game and 20.2 fantasy points per game. That's pretty good, considering basically he's throwing to Jalen Waddle and Mike Gesicki, and that's it. So I think Tua is proving some people wrong, or he may be proving some people right. I'm not sure. It depends what your feelings were about him coming into the draft. I think he's a viable starter this week because he's playing the Giants, who the Eagles couldn't do anything against. The Giants are still giving up this season 254 passing yards per game, while allowing quarterbacks to average 16.8 fantasy points against them. So I think this week can be Tua time.
Where do you stand on Tua, Neil? Because you basically just kind of skated around it. I believe there's two kinds of there's two camps. I'm going to call one the Stephen Ruiz camp, which is he's poo. Then there's what can only be described and was described by Stephen Ruiz as Tua and none, which is like a Twitter thing where basically there's a conspiracy against Tua and everything he stands for. My favourite one today was hopefully friend of the show, although we've never had him on, Nate Tice, commenting on how fast Jalen Waddle was, and his response to said tweet was he tweeted about how fast Jalen Waddle was. He said Jalen Waddle is very, 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 very fast. And then in a subsequent tweet, if you guys think I'm going to make any comment about Tua's game, you must think this is my first day on this app. Which is very true. I want him to be good. I think he's been better. I have concerns. He may be Chad Pennington of a modern age. I don't think he's as good as I thought he was going to be. I think that's where I'm going to go.
I still think the Dolphins' offensive line is a Greek tragedy. That doesn't help.
That doesn't help, absolutely.
I don't think it's sustainable to basically make your offense in the NFL an RPO-based offense. I think you can have elements of RPOs because we've seen it can work, but if you're going to do that, I don't think it's sustainable. Obviously, it helps the fact that Tua is very good on RPOs. By any statistics you care to name, he can execute them. But eventually, with this offensive line, it's not going to. I don't think you can hang your hat on it. Now, obviously, we know that back in the past, the Dolphins had a somewhat unique offensive philosophy that they bludgeoned until it stopped working, the Wildcat. So it's a question of, can this coaching staff evolve and help Tua become something he isn't? Because you do have to remember, they're churning through offensive coordinators in Miami. It's like the drummer for Spinal Tap on South Beach. So
they did so well this year. They've got 2 of them.
Yeah, I think he's good. But again, I think Chad Pennington, it's not a terrible comparison.
Who's number 2, Neil?
Number 2 is a player who may be on an awful lot of rosters, but if he is, he needs to be in an awful lot of starting lineups. Because when Dalvin can't cook, the Vikings make sure Alexander Mattison gets a lot of work. The Vikings are playing the Detroit Lions as well, and this, that's good news for most running backs. But it's also good news for Mattison when you consider that 27.8 of his career rush attempts, 28.1% of his career rushing yards, 25% of his career rushing touchdowns, 27% of his career receptions, and 100% of his career receiving touchdowns have all come against the Detroit Lions.
Now, who owns more of Detroit, Alexander Mattison or the Ford family? What are we talking about here?
It's clearly A-Matt. In 4 games over the last 2 years where Dalvin Cook has not played, Mattison has averaged 21 rush attempts for 86.5 rushing yards, 5 targets, 4 receptions for another 40 receiving yards. So it averages about 21.2 PPR points per game. If you've got Alexander Mattison this week, you start him. I don't care for who else. Get him in. Is he
actually the exception that proves the rule on handcuff? Because handcuff, I'm just going to put out there, is complete and utter bullshit and never works any time apart from Dalvin Cook and Alexander Mattison. Because you get the other guys and they either never play, or when they do play, it's not them, it's someone else.
Friend of the podcast, JJ Zachariason, always says, if you're going to go into draft and you want to draft handcuffs, don't draft your own players' handcuffs. Draft someone else's. So if you've got like a deep bench, if you've got Ezekiel Elliott, don't draft Tony Pollard. Draft Alexander Mattison. Or if you've got Dalvin Cook, draft Tony Pollard. See, the problem is with handcuffs, as you say, you never know who it's going to be. Very rarely do teams literally just go, okay, we've lost him, give it all to him. There'll be a committee, there'll be an approach, they'll do something different. But there are a few teams that literally, we know they don't want to make it a committee. They want to give it all to the one player. The Vikings are one. So in terms of true handcuffs, Alexander Mattison is as close as we're going to get.
Cool. Final one, Neil.
Well, oddly, this is almost a pure tight end handcuff, because we've seen when Darren Waller doesn't play, Foster Moreau picks up the slack very nicely. Waller missed the game against the Eagles earlier this season, so what did Moreau do? 6 receptions on 6 targets with 60 yards and a touchdown. Sounds good. The Raiders are playing Washington, and Washington aren't the greatest team when it comes to defending tight ends. They've allowed an average of 4.6 receptions for 48 yards to tight ends over the last 5 games, and they've given up a receiving touchdown in 3 of those 5 games. So Moreau, if he comes in, we've seen that Derek Carr, his projections this week actually look quite positive, despite the improvement of late of Washington. I think if Moreau can step into the Waller-type workload, then he could be in for a big day himself.
Awesome. Neil, let us move on and let's get on to the fancy loser portion of the show. Neil, you said that Dalvin Cook would be less than running back 12, so wouldn't be a number 1 running back last week. He was running back 16, 14.3 points, only 39 rushing yards. Did have 6 for 64 receiving, but it is a win, which makes you 8-4. Neil, can you give me who the fancy loser is this week?
Fancy loser this week is another running back. It's going to be Najee Harris. Now, Harris has a 39% opportunity share this season, and that's rushing attempts and targets, which is the 3rd highest among all running backs in the NFL. He's been an RB1 8 times in 11 games. They're playing the Ravens this week, and over the last 5 weeks, the Ravens have allowed the 2nd fewest PPR points to running backs in the entire NFL. They've not allowed a running back to score a rushing touchdown in their last 4. And while it's like, okay, well, they're keeping him quiet on the ground, Harris is an excellent receiver. He'll just bulk up his stats through the air. Not so fast, my friend. The Ravens are allowing an average 2.2 receptions for 19 yards to running backs in their last 5. Najee Harris will be outside the top 15 running backs this week.
Top 15, love it, Neil, love it. Najee Harris.
Did you watch that game Did you watch the Steelers against the Bengals? Have you seen it?
Yeah, because I like watching bloodbaths, and I especially I have nothing against the Steelers. Actually, I really like Mike Tomlin, but when good teams start being bad, I can't help but watch because I just find it fascinating. Because there's a load of lads who've won 10 plus games for forever, getting absolutely boat raced by a team they regularly beat, and they don't know why and they don't know how. Like Najee Harris, as you said, is getting the share that everyone expected him to. From a fancy point of view, people will like pick him in the first round because he's going to get the ball all the time, and he has got the ball all the time. He's been okay because the rest of the offense is absolutely putrid.
Couldn't be more broken. It really couldn't.
I was listening to the Athletic Football Show and they had the Pittsburgh Steelers beat writer on, and trying to work out what they're doing next year at quarterback is crazy. But what I will say is that only the Jacksonville Jaguars have less money allotted to offense going forward next year, so they're 31st and they've got a massive amount of cap space, so there is chance for change in Pittsburgh. Let's just put it like that. But then again, the guy was trying to work out the most he've ever spent on a free agent, and he reckoned it was about $8 million a year. So it's one of them things where it may not happen. We shall see. Neil, let's get on with fancy predictions bound to go wrong. We really do stink at this, and probably I would suggest that people, if you're going against specific players in your fancy championships coming up, send them to us at waxing_lyrical or at N13 or at Mainz7, and we can help you win your title by destroying these players' careers. Last week I picked Jalen Hurts to be QB1, 400 yards and 5 touchdowns. He was fucking awful. And he got 206 yards, no touchdowns and 3 interceptions. And one of the most damning comments, even though I don't think it was meant to be a damning comment, was said by one of the Giants defensive backs, who said, yeah, what our plan was to let him throw. Said with no hint of irony whatsoever. That's not good. He's a quarterback. Neil picked CMC to have 100 yards rushing and receiving and 1 touchdown for both. He got 35 rushing yards and 0 receiving and a loss, and is out for the season. And in my opinion, although I've got a lot of time for CMC, will never be drafted by me again. He is out. He's officially in the dumb box. He's in the Todd Gurley Bowl.
Do you know, going back to what Julian Love said about that, our plan was to let him throw. If you actually watch what the Eagles were doing, the Eagles should have been fine with that.
Yeah, I know.
Because the run was working.
Don't worry, Neil. Someone had basically gave you an open goal to become the 6 seed or the 5 seed even in the NFC, and you just pulled your own pants down and did a big poo-poo.
Yeah, the bed is soaking wet.
Just got up, drunk, as a friend of ours once did, opened his girlfriend's wardrobe and peed in it. That's how bad it was.
Yeah.
Hey Jay, how are you?
I miss Jay.
I do too. Neil, my pick this week is Odell Beckham Jr. will be a top 5 wide receiver. He will score over 25 fantasy points versus the Jacksonville Jaguars. Had 8 receptions last week for 92 yards, I think. He will go off this week. The Rams need to fix life, and is there a better way to fix your ailing offense than to play the Jacksonville Jaguars? I don't think there is.
This is true. I am just going to, while I tell tell what mine is. I'm just going to look up and see when Odell Beckham last scored.
He didn't. He hasn't.
fantasy points.
It was probably when he played for the New York Football Giants.
Probably. So anyway, I'm in the words of the late great Jim Fossil. We're at the stage of the year. I'm going to put my chips at the table. I'm all in, and I'm saying that Alexander Mattison. Not only is he an RB1 this week, he is the RB1 this week. 25 to 30 points this week for Alexander Mattison.
They are some cojones that the guys from Major League will be super duper proud of now.
Odell Beckham, 38.4 PPR points week 4 last year against Dallas.
There we go. He gets close to that against Jacksonville this week.
In his last 15 games, including that, he's averaged 10.1 PPR points per game.
It's fantasy predictions bound to go wrong. What are you talking about? What do you want me to just pick Devontae Adams? Like, what do you want from me here?
There's a good chance that Devontae Adams will outscore Beckham this week,
and he's on a bye. I know. Neil, that's the end of the show. But where can people catch you for the rest of the week?
Find me on the Twitter at NDutton13. You can find my Super Bowl odds tracker at Numberfire, the Tight End Report on Rotoviz, the Chargers Scouting Report for 4for4 Football. I've got the Fantasy Report for Nat on a Sunday, and next Tuesday on 4for4's Discord channel, I'll be doing their live AMA at 8 o'clock our time. Obviously, this is only available to subscribers for 4for4, so I'm looking forward to doing that.
I'm just going to subscribe so I can attack you.
Thanks.
You're welcome. The touchdown review came out on Tuesday before I lost my voice. Great show last week. I wasn't going to do much college, and then every single major college program decided to change coach. So we got George Somerville on to talk about Brian Kelly going to LSU. Wild to go from Notre Dame to LSU. Literally the definition of Catholics to convicts. We got Taib talking Michigan, and then we talked a lot of NFL. Got my mate Callum Squires back on, who's now moved to Dallas, got married since the last time he was on the show, and he was only on the show 3 weeks ago. So there you go. Give it a listen. That is a man in a hurry. He's a Miami Dolphins fan living in Dallas. Good luck to him. Give it a listen. It's really good. Not because I'm on it. Far from it. I'm just the guy who asks the questions, and then you get really intelligent people answering them. It's a bit like this one, really. That is it for this week. I hope everyone enjoyed Charles. Charles, it's nothing personal. It's strictly business. And these top guys are out.